The girl in chains. The red sky above the alien marketplace was filled with smoke and dust. The ground was hot under bare feet, and the air smelled of sweat, oil, and fear. Crowds moved like shadows, silent, watching, ignoring the cries of those in pain. Among them, a girl walked with chains on her wrists and ankles. Her skin was pale purple, her body thin and weak. Strange blue lines glowed faintly on her arms, marks left by pain and control. Her eyes were large, once full of life, now empty and tired. Her name was Sira, though no one had called her that in years. Behind her walked a cruel alien traitor. He was large, with gray-green skin and a cruel smile. His name was Druk, and he had owned Sira for 10 long years. He pulled her chain hard whenever she slowed down. "Keep moving, beast," he growled. Sira didn't cry. She didn't speak. Her voice had grown quiet from years of being punished. She had learned silence. She had learned to obey. But deep inside, something still burned. A small spark. They passed strange creatures in cages. Some screamed, some begged. Some were silent like her. This market was where living beings were sold like food or tools. Today, Druk was looking for a new buyer, but Sira had heard something last night. A new buyer wanted her, not for work, but for entertainment. She had seen what that meant before. No one came back from it. That night, in the dark corner of her cage, Sira finally decided she would escape or die trying. Morning came too soon. Druk unlocked her cage and pulled her out. "Today's your lucky day," he laughed. "High-paying guest wants you. You better behave." Sira didn't answer. He tightened the chains and pushed her through the dirty streets. Her feet were bleeding, but she didn't stop. She had been thinking, watching, waiting. She knew the route. She knew the guards' blind spots. She knew where the trash trucks came and where the dark tunnels hid under the stone roads. As they turned near a large fire pit, something changed. In her eyes, she moved. Fast, too fast for someone half-starved, she pulled her chained hands hard. Surprising Druk, she kicked his knee and ran. People shouted. Druk screamed behind her, "She's running! Catch her!" Sira ran through smoke and filth, her lungs burning. Her chains slowed her, but she didn't stop. She dodged through tents, ducked under carts. A drone flew overhead, scanning for slaves. She covered her glowing marks with mud and ran harder. She heard alarms. They would find her. They always did, but not this time. Not today. She reached the city wall, too high to climb. But to the side, she saw a waste pipe. Small, dirty, but just wide enough. She didn't think twice. She crawled in. The pipe was cold and smelled terrible, but it led her out, into the lower levels of the city. Few came here. Lights were broken. Air was heavy. Rats the size of dogs watched her from dark corners. She was shaking, hungry, and bleeding, but she was free. For now, she walked for hours, hiding behind walls, moving like a shadow. The sun had set again. Her body wanted to sleep, but her mind screamed, "Keep going." Her chains clinked softly as she walked. She crossed into a quiet part of the city, where the streets were cleaner and machines flew overhead. This was the human zone. She had heard stories about humans, cruel warriors, unpredictable. Some said they had no mercy, but she had also heard whispers from other slaves, that some humans helped escapees, that some hated slavery. She didn't know what to believe. She had never seen a human before, but her body gave her no choice. She knocked on a small door and fell to the ground. She had no strength left. She didn't even feel the door open. Inside the home, Jace, a young human man, stood in shock. His hand was still on the door handle. At his feet lay a girl, clearly alien, glowing marks on her arms, blood on her face, chains still on her legs. She was barely breathing. She had knocked once and passed out. He looked left, looked right. No one had seen. Jace was a quiet man. He fixed machines, lived alone. He had no idea what was going on, but something in the girl's face, her pain, her broken body, made him move. He pulled her inside and locked the door. Outside, patrol lights flashed in the distance. The first thing Sierra felt was warmth. The second was fear. She jolted awake, not in a cage, not on cold metal, but on a soft surface with light above her. Her body screamed in panic. She kicked, rolled off the bed, and crawled backward until her back hit a wall. Her chains clinked. "Easy! You're safe," a voice said. A human. Her wide, glowing eyes met his. He didn't move closer, just stood, with his hands open. No weapon, no collar, no cage. Still her hands trembled. Her body didn't believe what her eyes saw. Jace had never seen fear like this. The alien girl, thin, weak, bruised, was now huddled in the corner of his living room like a hunted animal. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Her wrists were cut raw from metal cuffs. He moved slowly, placed a cup of warm broth on the floor and backed away. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said again. Sierra didn't speak. She didn't trust words, but the smell of food pulled her forward. She crawled to the cup like a child still watching him. She drank fast, then coughed hard. "I'm Jace," he whispered. "You're in my home now. You don't have to run anymore." Run. The word echoed in her mind. Run. That's all she'd done. But could she stop? Jace carefully sat across the room. He watched her eat 2 full bowls of food before her breathing slowed. Then her eyes began to close again. "You need rest," he said gently. She didn't answer. She curled up on the floor, not the bed, like she was used to cold ground. That night, Jace stayed awake, guarding the door. Not from her, but for her. Outside, patrol ships flew by. Drones scanned the rooftops. The trader had reported her missing. They were searching. Sierra woke before dawn. She touched the blanket Jace had placed over her. It didn't feel like a trap. She got up slowly and looked around the strange home. It was small but clean. There were pictures on the wall. No weapons. No chains. She found a small mirror. She stared at her own face. Her hair was tangled, her cheeks hollow, her glowing marks dim. She looked like a ghost. Suddenly, a noise behind her. She spun around, ready to defend, but it was just Jace holding clean clothes and a piece of bread. "Try these. I thought they might fit." She didn't take them right away. He smiled. "I'll turn around?" He did. Only then did she step forward and take the clothes. They were simple but warm. The fabric was soft. It had been many years since she wore anything not made of chains. They didn't speak much. But Jace showed her the kitchen, the bathroom, even gave her a place to sit by the window. She didn't know why he was being kind. He didn't ask her name, didn't ask her story. That made her trust him more than words ever could. She stared out the window, watching ships fly by. She saw bounty posters on screens. One showed her face. Faded, but clear enough. She looked at Jace. He had seen them too. "You're being hunted," he said. She looked down. "Do you want to keep running?" She shook her head. He nodded. "Then we'll make a plan." Sierra sat by the heater, watching light dance on the wall. Her hands were still sore, but her heart was confused. She had known nothing but chains. Now a human had given her warmth, food, rest, and no demands. Could she trust this? Could she trust him? Her heart whispered, yes. But her scars whispered no. Jace walked in with a toolbox. "I'm going to cut those cuffs off." She flinched. "I'll be gentle." He sat beside her, took a soft cloth and gently began to unlock the metal. It took time. When the last piece dropped to the floor, she stared at her bare wrists. She touched them slowly. No chains, for the first time in 10 years. Then, tears. Silent. Unstoppable. Jace didn't speak. He only placed a hand on the floor between them, not touching her, just present. For her, that was enough. But safety never lasted long. Outside, in the shadows of the street, a dark figure watched Jace's house from a distance. The slave trader had found the district. He never locked his door before, not once in 5 years. But tonight, Jace locked every bolt and sat beside the window, holding a scanner in one hand and a hammer in the other. Outside, the street looked calm, peaceful even. But his instincts were loud now. Someone was watching. Inside, the girl he had taken in lay asleep on the couch. No chains, just bandaged wrists and quiet breathing. He didn't know her name, her past, or how far she had run. But he knew one thing. If the wrong people found her, she wouldn't survive. The house was silent except for the hum of city lights and Jace's slow breath. He checked the scanner again. No unusual movement. Still, he didn't relax. He looked at her sleeping face. Sierra, as he now guessed from a faint ID tag on her cuff. Her skin was still bruised, her hair wild. But she no longer looked like an animal. She looked like a person, like someone trying to be alive again, and he was the only wall between her and those hunting her. Druk, the slave trader, stood across the street in an alley, his face twisted in anger. A weak light from the bounty drone glowed against his skin as it projected the target. Sierra, Zone 9. Human sector. Last trace. The drone buzzed. Druk clenched his fists. "She belongs to me," he growled. He pressed a button. A silent alert went to his trackers. Tomorrow, they'd knock on doors, and if the human resisted, he'd pay. Sunlight peeked into the house. Jace hadn't slept. Sierra opened her eyes slowly. For the first time in years, she woke up in peace. No barking commands. No sharp pain. Just warmth. She looked around, then noticed Jace sitting by the door, eyes red, coffee cup in hand. "You didn't sleep," she said in a soft voice. Jace looked surprised. It was the first time she spoke. "No," he said with a half smile. "Didn't want to risk it." She sat up, confused. "Why help me?" He paused, then shrugged. "Maybe because no one helped my sister when she needed it." She tilted her head, curious but still unsure. "She died in a war," he said. She was scared, alone. If someone had helped her, maybe she'd still be alive. Sierra lowered her eyes. "I'm not your sister," she whispered. "No," he said, "but you looked just as scared." Jace showed her how to use the scanner, taught her how to detect hidden signals. She learned fast. They sat together watching city news reports. Nothing yet. But he warned her, "They'll come looking." Sierra didn't flinch. Instead, she said, "Then I'll run again." Jace looked at her. "Do you want to keep running your whole life?" Her silence answered for her. 3 slow knocks. Sierra froze. Her body stiffened. Her eyes darted to the window, the hall, the door. Panic returned like an old friend. Jace stood up calmly and walked to the door. "Who is it?" he asked. No answer. He looked through the monitor. Nothing. Just an empty street. Then he saw it, a tracking chip stuck on the edge of the frame. They knew she was here. Jace ripped it off and smashed. They found us," he said. Sierra's breathing grew fast. "I should go." "You won't make it out there alone," Jace said firmly. "You're staying." She stepped back. "You don't understand. If they find me here, they'll kill you too." "I've lived alone too long," he said. "If helping you is a risk, I'll take it." She didn't know what to say. No one had ever risked anything for her, not even a kind word. That night, Sierra stood at the window, staring at the stars. Her chains were gone. Her body was healing, but her mind, still broken, still afraid. Yet something had changed. For the first time in years, someone had stood up for her, but the storm hadn't passed yet. Far away, Druk was preparing to storm the humans' home, with weapons, with force, with rage. And this time, he wouldn't take her back alive. He'd rather destroy her. She woke up screaming, not from pain, but from a memory, Chains, fire, the sound of bones breaking. Laughter, her voice begging. But when her eyes opened, she wasn't in a cage. She was in Jace's home. It was quiet, safe, and yet, her heart didn't believe it. Because the scars under her skin never slept. Jace rushed into the room when he heard her cry. She sat on the edge of the couch, sweat on her face, breathing like she had run a mile. "Bad dream?" he asked gently. Sierra nodded once. He didn't ask more. He simply handed her a glass of water and sat nearby. No questions, no pressure. But inside, Jace was angry, not at her, but at what had been done to her. No one deserved to live with fear like this, not even in sleep. Sierra stood in front of the mirror again, holding up her sleeves. The glowing blue scars were still there, etched into her skin by the slave collar she had worn for a decade. No one could remove them. They were burnt in by technology. A brand. A warning to others. She traced the lines with a finger. "Ugly," she whispered. Behind her, Jace spoke quietly. "They're not ugly. They're proof you survived." She turned. To face him, her eyes guarded. "Survived? I'm not even a person anymore. I'm leftover." Jace stepped closer but didn't touch her. "You're more human than most people I've ever met." Sierra looked away. "I'm not human. That's not what I meant." In a dark corner of the city, Druck met with two armed bounty hunters. One held a stun rifle, the other wore a mask. "She's in the human's home," Druck growled. "He's hiding her. I want them both," the masked one asked. "Alive?" Druck's lip curled. "I don't care. Just bring her back, or make sure no one else ever gets her." The hunt would begin that night. Sierra tried to help around the home. She cleaned. She repaired a loose panel on the wall. She even tried cooking, though the food came out strange. Jay smiled anyway. "It's perfect." Sierra allowed herself a small smile, the first one. They shared dinner at a small table. No chains, no silence. Just two people from different worlds. After the meal, Sierra whispered, "Why don't you ask me what happened?" Jace looked into her eyes. "I figured, when you're ready, you'll tell me." She stared at her empty plate. Then she began. "Was taken when I was 8, she said softly. "My village was peaceful. One night ships came, fire everywhere. I hid under my bed, but they found me." Jace said nothing, just listened. "They killed my mother. Sold me like an object. I was passed around, sometimes beaten, sometimes worse. For 10 years I was nothing but property." Tears didn't fall. Her voice was cold, distant. "But I never forgot my real name. Sierra." Jace spoke her name aloud. "Sierra." She closed her eyes. "Yes. That's who I was. And who I want to be again." Jace showed her how to use a small shock baton, just in case. "You'll need to defend yourself," he said. "I can't always be there." She held the weapon like it was poison. "I've never hurt anyone." He nodded. "Let's keep it that way, but if someone tries to hurt you again, don't let them." They trained for a while. Her hands shook at first, but soon she found her balance. Her scars didn't stop her. She could still fight back. Just before midnight, Sierra stood by the window, watching the stars. For the first time, in 10 years, she didn't feel like a slave. She felt like a person, but peace was short-lived. Across the city, the bounty hunters received their orders. They locked in on Jace's home, and they were coming, with weapons, with orders, and with no mercy. It began with silence. Not the quiet of peace, but the silence before the storm. Even the street outside Jace's home felt frozen, like the whole city was holding its breath. Then the power died. Lights off. Security scanners blinked out. Windows darkened. Jace dropped his tool and stood. "They're here." Sierra didn't ask who. She already knew. He had found her. In the shadows of the street, Druck stood with his bounty hunters, faces hidden, weapons charged. The building ahead was small, human-designed, but secure. He growled, "Kick it in." The door didn't stand a chance. A blast of red light shattered it open. Smoke and heat filled the room. Inside, Jace grabbed Sierra's arm. "Back room, go." Sierra's eyes flashed with fear, but she didn't freeze. She ran just like he told her. Jace faced the invaders, lone. Druck stepped into the smoke-filled room. He looked around, then saw Jace. "You're brave, human." "But stupid." Jace held his ground, gripping the shock baton. "She's not yours anymore." Druck laughed. "She's a product, and you're just a speck." The bounty hunters moved. First, one lunged, but Jace struck hard with the baton. The man screamed and dropped. Another came from the side. Jace ducked, rolled, and hit back. But there were too many. One hunter punched him hard in the ribs. Another kicked him down. Sierra, hiding behind a broken wall, saw it all. Jace bleeding, shouting, fighting for her. Her heart raced. She couldn't run again. She wouldn't. Sierra grabbed the second baton. Her hands trembled, but her soul didn't. She burst from cover and slammed the weapon into the back of a hunter's neck. Electricity sparked. He dropped. The others turned, shocked. "Stupid girl!" Druck roared. Sierra stood tall now, between the attackers and Jace. "No more cages," she said. "No more running." Together, they fought. Jace and Sierra, back one by one, they pushed the hunters back. Sierra moved fast, her strikes wild but full of fire. Jace blocked, countered, covered her. But Druck was waiting. He grabbed Sierra by the hair, yanked her down, and pressed a blade to her throat. "She's mine," he shouted. Jace froze. Blood trickled down Sierra's neck. But she didn't scream. Instead, she reached back, elbowed him in the gut, twisted away, and stabbed the shock baton into his side. Druck howled and fell. Jace rushed in, finishing it with a heavy punch. The attackers lay scattered, unconscious or moaning. The room was wrecked. Smoke filled the air. Jace leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His face was bleeding. Sierra dropped the baton and fell to her knees. "It's over," she whispered. Jace looked around, unsure. "Maybe. For now." Sierra looked at her hands, still shaking. But this time, not from fear, from power. She had stood up. She had fought back. She had won. She turned to Jace. "Thank you," she said, "for giving me something to fight for." But deep down, they both knew. This wasn't the end. Druck had allies, wealth and anger. The next time, he might not come with hunters. He might come with an army. The city news didn't report it. No one came knocking. No officials asked questions. But Sierra knew the truth. They were just giving her time to bleed. Because people like Druck didn't disappear quietly. They vanished, only to return louder. And this time, she wouldn't wait in fear. She was done running. She was going to stand. The living room still smelled like smoke and broken circuits. Sierra helped Jace wrap his wounds, her fingers gentle but her mind far away. She had fought back, she had hurt them. She had made a choice. But deep inside, a war raged in her heart. Was she becoming like them? Could she protect without becoming cruel? Jace saw the worry on her face. "You did what you had to," he said. "I don't know who I am anymore," she replied quietly. He met her eyes. "Maybe now, you get to choose." They knew Druck would return, not with bounty hunters this time, but with bribes, with weapons, maybe even corrupt enforcers. So they began to prepare. Jace upgraded the home's defenses, locking shutters, hidden alarms, electrified window frames. Sierra trained. Every day, she learned balance, speed, and how to move without fear. Jace guided her but never forced her. She set her pace. She chose her path. At night she still had nightmares, but now she woke up ready, not helpless. She was becoming something she never imagined. Strong. 3 days later, a small drone floated by the window and dropped a device. It clicked on, projecting a message. Druck's voice. You think you won, girl? I'm not dead. I'm not even close. You belong to me. And next time I'm coming with soldiers. Burn that house down if I have to. Sierra stared at the message without blinking, then crushed the device under her heel. Jace said, "We can leave the city, disappear, find a quiet planet." Sierra shook her head. "I ran for 10 years, I'm done hiding. You don't have to prove anything," he said. "I'm not proving anything," she replied. "I'm taking my life back." The next day, Sierra walked into the market with her sleeves rolled up, her scars visible to all. The old fear followed her with every step, but she didn't let it win. People stared. Some turned away. Others whispered, but she stood tall. At the center square, she climbed the old speaker platform and spoke into the crowd. "My name is Sierra," she said. "I was a slave for 10 years. Gasps. Silence. I escaped, and I will never go back. If any of you are running, if you're hiding, you don't have to be afraid anymore. There are people who will help." A young alien girl stepped forward slowly. She had bruises on her arms. She looked at Sierra and didn't see a victim. She saw a fighter. One by one, others joined her. Silent. Watching, but not turning away. Jace watched from a distance. His heart ached with pride. She didn't need him to speak for her anymore. She had found her voice. That night, people came quietly to their home. Not attackers, survivors. Other former slaves, escapees, hiders, broken souls who saw in Sierra what they had forgotten, hope. She gave them food, blankets, a safe place, and told them, "We protect each other now." She was no longer just someone who escaped. She was someone who fought back, who stood, who inspired, but the real battle was still coming, and this time, she wouldn't be alone. Sierra stood on the roof as the stars blinked above. Behind her, the house was quiet, filled with sleeping escapees, warm lights, and the smell of cooked rice. She used to dream of escaping. Now she dreamed of staying. But peace was not a gift, it had to be defended. And as the stars above shifted, a dark ship appeared. No lights, no sound. Druck had returned. Alarms rang softly inside the house. Jace was already up, loading his scanner. "They're here," he said. Sierra didn't panic. She walked to the door, baton in hand, voice steady. "Then let's finish this." Outside, Druck marched with 4 armored enforcers, paid off and ready to crush. But this time, Sierra didn't hide. She stepped into the street. Druck smiled wickedly. "Still pretending to be free, girl?" She raised her voice. "I am free, and you're not welcome here." He laughed. "You really think one broken girl and a human can stop me?" Then the doors behind her opened. 10 more figures stepped out. Former slaves, survivors. Weak, maybe, but willing. "We're more than enough," she said. The fight was quick, but fierce. Jace and 2 others defended the house perimeter. Sierra faced Druck directly. He was stronger, bigger. But he underestimated her again. She dodged, struck low, then high. She fought with purpose, not rage. She wasn't trying to kill. She was trying to end the fear. Druck swung hard and missed, again and again. "You were nothing," he screamed. "And now I'm free," she shouted back. With one final move, she swept his legs and slammed the baton into his chest. He hit the ground hard. She didn't strike again. She looked him in the eye and whispered, "You don't own me. Not now, not ever again." The corrupt enforcers retreated, seeing the crowd grow. Neighbors had come out, watching, recording. Word was spreading. Slavery wasn't just illegal. It was shameful. And Druck had crossed a line. He was arrested the next morning by real officers, ones who had heard Sierra's message. She didn't celebrate. She just stood quietly while they took him away. This time she didn't tremble. Weeks passed. The house grew. Jace expanded it, adding more rooms. Sierra helped build a garden. The survivors helped each other, trained, healed, laughed. Sierra taught others how to fight, not with anger, but with strength. One day, a small alien child tugged her hand. "Are you the lady who beat the bad man?" She smiled softly. "No, I'm the girl who stopped running." Jace stood beside her in the garden. "You never told me what you wanted. After all this." She looked around, the lights, the laughter, the smell of food. "This," she said, "this is the home I deserved." And for the first time in her life, Sierra wasn't surviving, she was living.